for us. Sam is a second grader in Mrs. Young's class, so it's very early in the first couple of days. First couple of days of school, he's not sure what he likes about second grade yet, because we just have such a small sample size. But we do know that reading is one of the top tiers. And Lemony Snicket is his favorite author right now. So I'm going to let you take it away, my friend. And if you don't mind standing up.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good luck to you.
Proof of posting. Okay, looking for approval of the board minutes from our August 7th meeting.
So moved. I'll second.
Discussion? Okay, no discussion. All in favor of approving the August 7th minutes as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Looking for approval of board minutes from our August 21st meeting.
So moved.
Discussion? Okay, all in favor of approving the August 21st meeting minutes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Looking for approval of the non-public minutes from our August 21st meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to hold these to our next public meeting, non-public meeting. I mean, I can't discuss the changes now.
Understood. All right with the board? Okay, we're going to hold those over. Okay, this time, opportunity for the public to address the board. If I could ask that you state your name and address, and if you do have questions, you know, it's tough to write questions down verbatim. If there are questions, I'll say that are not answered this evening, I've got an email address here to send the questions to our scribe, or you can write it down and hand it to her during the meeting. Please.
My name is Dawn Rick. I live at 552 Air Street, Hooksett, New Hampshire. I am a resident taxpayer. I did write up when I wanted to say. I was at my granddaughter's 8th grade graduation this year at Carlton Middle School, and all I heard was honor student, honor student, honor student, honor student. We as Hooksett residents should be proud of our students. That's what we put out in Hooksett. We as parents and grandparents should be very, very proud of the education that we give in Hooksett. I'm very afraid of what is happening in Manchester. The mayor could care less about the education in class hours. My granddaughter is a freshman, and she was put in Spanish 2, where she has not taken even Spanish 1 yet. This should not have even happened. I spoke with the mayor of Manchester, personally, on the overcrowded conditions of Manchester, especially in Central, where my granddaughter is attending. And I asked him what is going on and what he's going to do about the problem. And he laughed at me. And he said it was his ultimate problem, as they voted him down on increasing the funding for hiring teachers. He wouldn't answer me. When I kept asking him where he allotted the money, Hooksett sent him. All he kept saying to me was, You don't listen very well. And he hung up on me. So I did what he said, and I wrote to every one of his aldermen. And I got back in writing from Ward 6 and Ward 2 exactly what the mayor did. And I have it in writing. I'm willing to give it to you. The school district approves some additional dollars from some trust funds, which the mayor opposed, to get the district $2.5 million additional dollars and hiring of teachers in Manchester. The mayor is the chairman of the school committee, so I guess he said the last word. Oh, by the way, those surveys that you sent out in Hooksett for New High School, they should have been sent to every single household that has a registered student in the elementary and the middle school, as I know a lot of people that did not receive them. Those are also taxpayers. Those are the up-and-coming students in our Hooksett districts for their education. I do have 2 copies of the emails that were sent to me by the alderman. I also got a call from one of the aldermen. The mayor shut down all the aldermen from speaking to me because he doesn't want me to know what's going on. And I can't tell you that, alderman, because his job's now in jeopardy. And thank you for listening to me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could, and the timing was fine with that, but this is the standard opportunity for the public to address the board, so any issues can be discussed at this point in the meeting. I apologize for not saying that earlier, but again, your comments are fine at that point. After this first opportunity, we'll open the public forum for bring your own device as well. So just wanted to let you know that there are 2 opportunities here. Again, yours was perfect timing, but I do want to clarify that. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Patricia Ottenreed, and I live at 8 Summerfair Street. We have 2 students in town, a freshman in high school now, Central, and a now 6th grader here at College. Just for the administrators and the principals that are here, we have an amazing school system in Hooksett. And to some extent, I think that's the issue when we send our children to Central. I expected large class sizes. I expected diversity. I expected lots of opportunities for education and to have their eyes open. I had my freshman also apply at Trinity, was accepted. He didn't want to go to Trinity, he wanted to go to Central. He wanted to play football for Central. And he wanted to go to school where his friends from Holly went. And this is where the vast majority of the kids went. So we agreed that if he kept his nose clean, kept his grades up, he could go to Central. Well, starting off this year, my son has been following the staffing reductions going on in school. He has written an editorial in the paper expressing his concerns regarding the staffing reductions. You know, here we have 20 kids in the class. His math class currently has 37 kids. There are 4 students in his math class that do not have tests. His Spanish class, there are 35. My question is to you, what are we doing? I can't tell you how upset I am about this. We have a contract, and if I had a contract to have my house built, and someone was not doing their job, I would sue them. Period. There is a contract. There are line items that they need to maintain. If the city of Manchester cannot keep within state standards of less than 30 children per class, do not send them another dime. I don't care where they go. I don't care what we do. Until the town dictates this is unacceptable standards, it's going to continue. And I don't know what else to say, so I want to know what are we doing. Because if the town is not going to do something, I will do something. Because I, as far as I'm concerned, have a contract with you and a contract with this town. I pay taxes here to get and receive an adequate education for my son, and it's not happening. 37 children in a math class is not acceptable. And if we do not do something in this town, I will hire my own attorney and I will get something done. So I respectfully ask for what are we doing?
If I could give a quick response on that, if the board is all right with that. We do have an agenda item. It's listed as letter to Manchester, but we're going to be discussing that because this is the first time the board has met since the class size issues have come up. So we will be discussing that issue or those issues later in the meeting. Thank you.
My name is Dave Lebeck, 29 Moore Road. Great question, what are we gonna do? I have a son who graduated last year, going to college. Great. I have twin girls who have to have 3 lunch periods in their senior year in school. Not 1, not 2, 3 lunch periods because they cannot fit in a classroom for them to be taught. I am an educator. I know what it's like to have 25 kids in my class. But to be told you can't take a class that you waited for 4 years to take is garbage and unacceptable. My daughters are practically straight A students. They're trying for the Scholars Award, and they can't make room for them to have all the requirements. Unacceptable. This board needs to act and act now. Egos aside, all the other stuff going on, priority 1 is this. 3 years ago, we were standing here saying we should build, we should build, we should look for alternatives. 10 years prior to that, we were in the same conversation. 15 years before that, we had the same conversation. It's time to wake up. We don't need Manchester. They obviously don't care about us. We spend our tax dollars on our education at the elementary level, middle school, and we throw it away. Enough. Get on the ball.
Can I ask Mr. LaGuardia a question? What is the Scholars Award you refer to? I'm sorry that I don't know.
I believe there's a criteria set by the state that you have to have X amount of social studies classes, X amount of science classes, etc.
And it's set forth by the state or the...
The state.
Okay, I can look it up. Thank you very much.
Not to mention that those classes, they're level 4 students, and they're being forced to take level 2, which is not scholars eligible. And that's what we're looking at.
Okay, thank you.
One more point, sorry. English class, a writing class that my daughter couldn't get into, she was told she can do an independent study. For what it's worth, great, she's a smart student, I'm sure with the help of some advising, she'll do that. There's nothing that can exchange a teacher, in my opinion. And a good teacher teaches kids, not an independent study.
Okay, thank you very much.
Good evening, Diane Casey, Jacob Ave, Hooksett. I am sending my 3rd child through Central right now currently. Well, all my children have gone through Central. Great athletes, great students. It's the first time that I will say that I'm concerned. I have a senior who is a high honor student at Central that can't get a writing class at Central for her 2nd semester to make graduation qualifications. Take a literary class, they said. That's not the point. The point is that my child should be allowed to have a class that allows her to get what she needs for college education. She was taken out of all the higher end classes, much like this gentleman. She's put into classes with 2 and 3 students, level 2 and 3, because they blended classes. Chaos is already happening. There's not enough kids, there's not enough teachers, there's not enough seats. It's just crazy. As an alumni of Central, as an alumni of Hooksett, it's a disgrace. It's sad. We send top students to Central to come out at the end and not be ready because we're not doing something about it. I grew up in Hooksett, 45 years as a resident of Hooksett. Since I've been 5 years old, 6 years old, my parents talked about high school, the nuns giving us it, we never took it. Here we are again, 40 years later, still beating the same dead stone. We need to do something. We need to fix it. Our kids deserve it. What happens to the bubble kids that come out this year? This is a smaller class going into Central. What happens to the bubble kids that are here now currently in college? What happens to them when they hit Central, when another school has a bubble year too? Where do they sit? In the courtyard? Help us out. Do something. What are you guys going to do for us? We're here doing for you. We're making our kids be good students. We're making them behave. They're good athletes. You guys help us now. You own the power. Fix it for us. Bottom line.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Susan Levasseur. I'm at 39 Sherwood Drive in Hooksett. I don't want to repeat what people have already said, but let me just say that I agree with a lot of that. And I want to take it from the other side. I have two youth who are in Central right now. One who has lunch at 9:30 in the morning because they had to add another lunch because there's too many students. Lunch, that's breakfast. That's not lunch, 9:30 in the morning. And I have a child who was struggling with math, who didn't do well in math last year, had to take math over the summer. I tried to communicate with Central prior to the start of school to see if there could be an overlap in those classes. And not only did I not get a phone call return or an email return, they weren't even answering their phones at Central the week before school started. That's not acceptable either. And whether that's because they're overworked and understaffed, I appreciate that. I understand they have a lot of work to do, and they're understaffed right now, but the students are suffering as a result of that, and that's not okay. And we can't wait. My daughter has only 3 more years of high school. If I had to wait 1.5 years, 2 years for Hooksett to figure out what to do with this contract, it's like Brown versus the Board of Education, the Claremont issue. Our students can't afford to wait till bureaucracy does its thing. We have to act now. It's got to be a priority because my daughter isn't going to be able to make it 2 more semesters with 36 kids in her math class and a teacher who can't stay after to help her because that teacher's got too much of a workload. She can't do it. I'm going to pay for a tutor again this year, which I'm happy to do to make help so my daughter is successful. But we pay taxes to have an adequate education for our students and for our children. And I don't think that's happening in Central. I don't think that that's what's happening. I think these teachers are going to be overworked. They're going to be dealing with discipline and crowd control. My daughter is in a study hall with 70 kids and 1 teacher. Not okay. So please, I'm begging you, act quickly. Please act quickly. My daughter can't afford to wait another year for us to figure out what to do about her education. Thank you.
James Maloney, 18 Cobra Ave. What can I say about the other issues is that things are really starting to pile up. I've been to some of the other discussions, and I haven't been here that long. I can definitely see things that are needing to get taken care of. I actually wanted to bring up a new item, which I understand is hopefully going to be addressed, and that's the busing issue. When I was informed about it last year, it actually did sound like a good idea, but it doesn't seem to be panning out that way. Basically, kids are waiting at Memorial for about half an hour just to get on the buses, which was what we were, in theory, trying to alleviate over, one of the things we were trying to alleviate over at Underhill, was kids standing around waiting. So it was a good idea, but I'm hoping it can work out the kinks or maybe take another look at it. So.
Ray McClellan, 9 Evelyn Street. I just wanted to get a couple questions answered. I don't know if you can answer them now, but I'm curious. I read in the paper that if Manchester is in breach, or the contract states that if they are in breach, they have 180 days to correct it. Is that right? School year is 180 days long? So they can basically overcrowd, I just want to make sure I understand this, they can basically overcrowd the classrooms, and they can wait until the end of the year to correct it. And at that point, they're no longer in breach, and we have no legal ramification at that point. Would that be correct? So it's 180 straight days, not school days. So it would be sometime less than the full school year. Okay. So if they were to do this, if the classrooms continue to be overcrowded and then they alleviate it in some manner, and then it happens again next year, is there any clause for that to take into account that they're repeatedly in violation, or could it be a situation where they can continue to be in breach for a period of time, which in fact would affect the kids that are learning in these situations, but then always be able to correct it within that allotted 180 days?
I believe I understand your question. If you're in breach, you come out of breach, at the end of that 180 days, is the slate clean, so to speak. And to be honest with you, I think I'm safe in saying that I'm sure we'll be speaking with the school district council at some point, so I think that's a question.
Okay. And obviously, I hope you know where I'm going with this, right? I mean, if they're continually in breach, but they can correct it, you can never really get out of the contract to be able to look at other options. So that's why I was asking that situation. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Todd Lazard, 21 Post Road. Mr. McClett actually was going to ask my question about the 180 days. But I was wondering if it's on your agenda tonight, if you could possibly draft up a document that talks about all the trigger points for the next year up to the end of the school year, to understand at what point decisions need to be made. Because I know in the past, I've come to these board meetings and heard the proverbial, whoops, we missed that deadline, so we'll wait till next year. If you can maybe put a plan together and lay it out in regards to all those due dates or periods where you have to make a decision before a certain point where it's void, that would be nice to see. The other thing is in terms of the contract itself. I know there's been a lot of discussion about this, especially back in March, about the contract and what it states and what it, I guess, what it means and what it doesn't mean. I'd like clarification once again on, and I'd like to see this board debate once again whether this contract says that we have the right to send kids elsewhere, and if that right exists and everyone agrees or affirms that right exists in that contract. Thank you.
Sorry, I forgot my other question. The other question I was going to ask is, when you found out about the overcrowding situation, were you given any numbers directly from Central, or is this kind of come about from hearing it from parents and newspaper and so forth?
We did request an analysis on opening day of class sizes, and we were provided for Central, West, and Memorial.
All right, so you did get West. That was my point. I was going to ask if you've gotten anything for West, because, and you know, not to speak, you know, out of turn, because rumors can be whatever, but I have heard from people that they're indicating that West is not experiencing this overcrowding. In fact, it's almost the opposite. So I'm just kind of curious how that would play into it. So I just wanted to know if you were aware of that. Thank you.
Can you speak to how the classes are at the different schools?
The question was, can you give us numbers as to the class sizes at the different schools?
There are pages of this. I don't have it with me. I'll be honest with you. I got it electronically in an email, but.
Was there an average?
We'll post it tomorrow on our website, so you'll see all three schools. And every course that's offered.
Mr. Chair, if I may say something. I just wanted to say that the contract that we have with Manchester is a public document, and it is on our school website if you'd like to look at the contract yourself.
Dave Levesque, 29 Moore Road. I'm a parent speaking of West High School. My daughters go to West. The crowding issue, that's no longer an issue or less of an issue. Everybody's allowed to go home period H if they don't have a class. So you could be a freshman with no class at the end of the day and leave. 3 lunch periods for my daughters alleviates class number. So you can sit in the cafeteria unsupervised or supervised by a few adults, and there's no crowding issues. Not to mention, they cut classes. They cut the classes that our kids need. Especially the level 4 or your scholar students, your high achieving students, they're gone. They don't exist. That's where your numbers go.
Hi there. Dave Giorgiano, 9 Heritage Drive. It seems like we're between a rock and a hard place. Right? Just listening to the discussion that we have here, it seems as if we've gone into a contract with an outsourcer, just like we were outsourcing jobs to India, China, and we have very few levers to pull for recourse to get this back on track. Okay? I have several friends who are educators at Central and the Manchester Schools District, and it seems like it's a sort of a game of tug of war. You've got the teachers union on one side not wanting to give up anything and fighting for benefits and their lack of ability to want to accept some of the health insurance payments that increasingly go up seemingly every year. And then you've got sort of the city on the other side, trying to balance budgets, trying to understand how they're going to manage both the influx of students, but also the class sizes, as we've heard, and other things. And this played out, in the papers, it played out in the media, and there were, ultimatums made related to, well, you're either getting hundreds of pink slips or you're accepting, terms that won't require any of you to lose your positions and jobs as teachers and other educators. And it seems like that's playing out, but we're, feeling the pain of this. So I'm sure many of you here have been thinking of, what can we do? How do we affect change? How do we affect outcomes so that we can have a better system that meets our students' needs and meets the citizens' needs and all that. So, I don't have any answers, but we're all looking for, maybe not the silver bullet, but a plan to get there, I think is what it comes down to. I've got a student who's in 7th grade now, not going to be long before we have to make the choice, $10,000 a year for system high school is not looking like a great option. And so, I think it's in all our best interest to try to really come to terms and figure out what to do with this.
My name is Brian Duplessis. I live on Gardenside Drive. I moved to Hooksett 8 years ago from Manchester. I owned a home in Manchester before I moved to Hooksett. And I really think that my appeal isn't so much to the board as it is to the town of Hooksett as a whole. Because this is a huge issue that affects not just our kids. I have a son who's a junior. He's been at Central. He's literally hated every minute. I have a 7th grader who goes to this school, loves it, is so impressed with the quality of this school. But it goes beyond that, because I know there's a will among a lot of this town to do something about this problem when it should have been dealt with. But there's part of this town, and it's frugal, and I like that. I like a lot of that about this town, and it's kept my taxes low. But this affects all of us, because you mentioned the person here who just talked before me. I got a 7th grader, what am I going to do in 2 years? You have other people thinking of moving out of Manchester, moving to this community, and they're looking at this high school issue. This is a big deal. I have no problem dropping my kid off here. Every day, for 2 years that I've dropped my son off at Central, I wished I could have provided him more. Okay? My kids have gone to Catholic school for as long as I could. When I lived in Manchester, I didn't have a choice. They had to go to Catholic school. It's been a huge sacrifice for me. This town should have dealt with this issue before, and it needs to deal with this issue now. Not to wait, not to push it off. This thing isn't going away. If you play with dogs, you get fleas. It's time to get out of Manchester. It's time to do something about this as a community, and it affects all of us. The value of your home, everything. It's time to do something. Time is now.
Thank you.
Jody Bernard, 11 Morningside Drive. 2 years ago in this very room, and I think it was 2 years ago, so forgive me, there was a public forum regarding high school and what we as parents want. I find myself very fortunate tonight that my child is a 3rd grader, because I at least have 5 years to play this game and figure out what everybody's going to do. That you were told, not necessarily this board, but the school board was told that night, the girls' bathroom didn't have toilet paper at Central, a school book was held up where the book fell out of the binding, and a parent was extremely upset, and here we are 2 years later, and now you're telling me that they're seniors who can't get a class. We're talking college, we're talking future, we're talking about our kids who you guys have done an amazing job up until 8th grade, and then at 9th grade you were like, hey, fend for yourself. That's not fair. That is not fair to me as a parent. That is not fair to this man as a parent. That is not fair to those students who are sitting in the classroom today. They deserve better. We are parents, we are a community, we are Hooksett. We do better than this. This is unacceptable. Again, I'm fortunate. I have a 3rd grader. If my child was in high school, I would be a lot more vocal. You guys should all get your heads together, not wait until the October 1st deadline for the class counts. What are you going to say to these kids in October? I'm sorry you didn't get your scholar, and excuse me if I say it wrong, your scholar class. Too bad, so sad. What if that's dependent upon a scholarship for college? What are we going to do then? Have we not let them down? Can all of us sleep at night? Because I, as a parent and a taxpayer, know that we've done wrong. So think about that when you go to sleep tonight. Think about those kids in a 40 classroom room who are not going to possibly have, maybe get that scholarship or maybe get into that college because we failed. Let's fix it.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mark Meeville, 42 Main Street. I wasn't planning on speaking about this, but I do support everyone who has been speaking tonight. I did have a daughter who just graduated from West High School. I am a West High alumni. I'm proud of it. I never saw any issues with West High School. My daughter never had any issues with West High School. She loved it and misses it. They went to the football game this Friday. But I think everybody here tonight is pleading with this school board to show some leadership. Enough with the petty stuff. Major things are happening around you, and what we see is absentee leadership. There's 2 members on the school board who haven't even activated their email address for the school board. I'm asking you now to focus on what everyone here is saying. I'm delighted that we have an excellent crowd tonight, because we've all attended some meetings where there's nobody here. But the eloquence of all these people and the passion here needs to transfer to you. Hopefully you've heard it loud and clear.
If anyone did see the mayor's interview on TV, I didn't agree with it. He stated that maybe having 42 students in a classroom, maybe they'd get a good education. I don't agree with having 42 students in a classroom that they can get a decent education. My granddaughter is in a classroom with 44 students at at this point. She's in Spanish 2. She hasn't even taken Spanish 1 yet. She goes to Central. I had to literally force her out of the vehicle the first day of school. She was scared to death to get out of her vehicle, out of my vehicle. She lives with me. They're homeless. They can't even get home. Manchester doesn't help them. They don't get any help at all. Immigrants come first. I'm sorry to say that. But I go along with everyone else in this room. Hooksett gave 100% education from first grade to 9th grade, from 7th to 8th grade, to my granddaughter. I wish you'd pay attention. All I see you do is wander your eyes all around. You don't pay attention to one person that is standing up here. I have no disrespect for you, but you do not look at one person that stands up here at all.
If you could just direct your comments
I am.
to the board.
But I am, right directly at the board. But her education was 100%. She was a straight A honors student and Hooksett all the way through her education. And Hooksett's education was above board on everything. But that girl, I forcibly had to force her hands off the car to get out of Central. And every class was over 37 students, every single class. Her lunch period is 2:30 in the afternoon. That's her lunch period. And it's crowded. She's scared to death to have lunch. There's no place to sit. And I agree with everyone here. The education of our kids should be foremost in your mind. Foremost. Thank you.
If you read the papers and you look at the situation in Manchester, I think the taxpayers passed that cap, saying that we're only going to spend so much, which limited what the leaders could do with the money. But if you look at a teachers union and what their role is in this whole process, but not just in the process, but the way these unions work. My son's math teacher last year was laid off, an excellent young teacher, okay? Note the young. And if you look at the teachers that get laid off in this, why are we talking about math classes that have 40 some odd kids versus English classes that have 20 some odd? The math and science teachers are in demand. These are the people who move from school to school to get a better situation. So the people who replace them are younger. So if you're gonna have a layoff in a union, it's last in, first out. So my son lost his math teacher, he lost his hockey coach, and he lost a really good educator because the union protects the more senior people. Now, maybe there'd be a better way where the best teachers, the more valuable teachers, the more needed teachers are kept. And then you wouldn't have 50 kids in a math class, and they wouldn't have to go get chairs from another room to bring to the math class so that every kid could sit down. And that's the situation you have now. And to say that the union has no say in it, that's just not accurate. Again, the situation in Manchester is one that we need to get away from. And that's all I'm saying.
The point of spending.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, sure. It's David Durazano of 9 Arrowview Drive. The point of spending in Manchester, and whether it's the non-funding of the teachers union demands, or whether it's funding a police station or a fire department, or whether it's whatever, is absolutely irrelevant. It doesn't change the fact that because we're in a situation where we have less control and over what the city and the state and the city decides to spend their money on, and because we are all here because the situation's not going in the right direction, it's been progressively going in the wrong direction. The fact that they've chosen to spend their money in one way or another that's really our money is the point. The point is we want to be heard. We want to make sure that you are representing us in our concerns, and quite honestly forcing the issue with the school, with the city, to say, listen, you know, you may be making decisions with your money in a particular way, but guess what? Our money we want first and foremost for education. You're letting us down. You're breaching contract, just like they would do if we were, you know, on the flip side, deciding to breach contract. They'd be coming at us, you know, full forward too. So that's really the point. How the money is spent in their decision making is irrelevant. It's how it affects us. That's relevant.
Dave Lebeck, 29 Mall Road. Last year, I remember we talked about when was our next opt-out notification that we could give Manchester. Do we know what year that happens, the opt-out? Do we have to give them a 2-year process like Auburn did?
June 30th, 2016.
That's our next opt-out. So the only way out is by breach, legally. So if we don't pay and we breach, they could throw us out. So in other words, they need our money. They get our students, but they need our money. If we don't pay because they're not meeting the standards that are in the contract and breach, if we withhold payment on October 1st when they show numbers, can they kick us out? You don't have to answer now, but if they can kick us out, maybe that's our way out.
Mr. Levesque, I just wanted to make a couple comments of my understanding of the contract. You're right about the opt-out, but my understanding is if they are in breach and the Board of Ed finds them in breach, then we can remove ourselves. What is at stake are a couple of things. Capital cost, which is a concern. And the other thing is, I think that this town has got to ask themselves, are you willing to take out your juniors, your seniors, or do we have to make a deal to grandfather out? Because that's what Auburn's into. If we're going to make a deal to grandfather out, it's not pick up and walk away. We have to make a deal. If we have the backbone to put them in breach, wait the 180 days, and walk away, that can be done, but I just don't think there's going to be a feeling for that. Thank you.
Todd was on 21 Post Road, being the numbers guy. Mr. Pearl posted the numbers for the report that came for the initial numbers at the start of the school day about 9 days ago on Hooksett issues. I went through those numbers. I'm kind of concerned because the parents here that are talking about this class sizes, I didn't see those class sizes. I saw small pieces of it, but it really sounds like the numbers are not accurate, which doesn't surprise me. But when you guys get those numbers, could you make sure that, possibly maybe even talk to some parents and see if you can't get maybe not the specific kids, but the specific classroom, the specific course number, plus what the ratio of students to teachers is, so that we can cross-compare it to the list. Because I'd hate to see a document come that basically doesn't actually reflect the true numbers, and give it something that is nebulous. So, thank you.